Welcome to Archetypes of the East. Today we're looking at Hexagram 41, Decrease, Subtraction. Reduction, depletion, or sacrifice in life leads to a greater long-term gain. When the seeker willingly parts with something once thought essential, the resulting void invites unseen benefits. To lose is to gain, just as to gain is to lose something. The strategy of this hexagram states that in order to have an increase in anything, a willful reduction is required to make way for what one seeks. The loss is strategic rather than taken away by external forces. The act of giving up something like resources, bad habits, or vices creates a void that is then filled with something good or greater than what was lost. A voluntary subtraction makes room for new worth and new growth. All voluntary sacrifices should be made truthfully and with humility. When they are done with resentment or regret, there is more inner work that must be done. Like an individual who reduces their anger and culls their desires, it leads to an increase in compassion and clear insight into what really truly matters. The principle of this hexagram is the strategy of essentialism. Hexagram 41 represents the great simplification. The structure is mountain over lake. The lake decreases its depth to feed the clouds of the mountain. This is the strategy of the productive sacrifice. It teaches that by consciously reducing the lower, the ego, the clutter, the excess, you automatically increase the upper, the spirit, the clarity, the long-term power. In a world obsessed with more, Hexagram 41 is a radical call to less. If you're feeling depleted, the oracle suggests that this is actually a sacred cleansing or a cleaning. If you're being asked to willingly let go of something that you once thought was essential, like a luxury, a habit, or an obsession with a specific outcome, this reduction isn't a punishment. It's an act of creating space for a higher quality of life to enter. The I Ching notes that in times of decrease, even a simple offering is enough if it is sincere. Don't try to buy your way out of this period with grand gestures. Be honest with your limited resources. The universe values the purity of your intent more than the quantity of your output right now. In career, this is the moment to trim overhead, simplify your services, or drop vanity projects that consume energy without returning any profit. In relationships, it's moving from the high drama to the simple presence. If it isn't essential, it's a burden. Just let it drop to the floor. The key or energy of this hexagram is quiet, humble, and concentrated. The atmosphere of hexagram 41 is very minimalistic. It feels like a clean, empty room with one perfect window. There is no noise, only stillness of the mountain and the depth of the lake. The image of hexagram 41 states, mountain over lake. At the foot of the mountain, the lake, the image of decrease. The superior one controls their anger and restrains their desires. This hexagram talks about internal maintenance. When it talks about controlling anger, it's the ultimate decrease. Anger is an example here used as an expensive emotion that depletes your energy. By reducing it, you increase your internal peace. The judgment of hexagram 41 states, decrease combined with sincerity brings about supreme good fortune, which is without blame. One can persevere while in a season of subtraction, and it furthers one to undertake their endeavor. The scale of the sacrifice does not matter. Only the sincerity of heart counts in the eyes of the divine. Leave the ornate bronze vessels and great offerings aside. Your modest offering in a simple wicker basket is all that you need. In the I Ching, decrease is never a tragedy. It's an investment. The two small bowls represented in the original translation represent the removal of the ornate bronze, the ego, the social masks, and the expensive distractions. This is the strategy of the lean foundation. It teaches that when resources are low, your intent becomes your most valuable currency. The scale of the sacrifice doesn't matter. Only the sincerity of the heart counts. We often believe that we can't move forward because we don't have enough money, enough followers, or enough energy. The oracle dismisses this as ornate bronze thinking. If you offer the two small bowls, your honest, stripped-back best, the supreme good fortune here is unlocked. You're being asked to find the minimum viable version of your dream and pour your soul into that. Waste can pertain to money, energy, or words spoken. In a season of decrease, grand displays are a leak of your power. If you are trying to look successful while your resources are low, you're wasting the very energy you need to survive the winter. Strip away the social pretense. Be lean and mean. Honesty about your current limits is the only way to protect your very core. In the realm of career goals and ambition, lean functions and trimming unessentials. Find the smallest tasks that give you the greatest results and decrease the rest. When times are difficult, invest in the foundation and structure and cut everything out that isn't necessary. Becoming lean and mean for a season will help you prepare for future growth. In the realm of relationships and social flow, value deep and quiet connections, prioritizing quality over quantity. Genuine small gestures matter the most. Avoid grand displays and keep things simple and authentic. Strip away social pretense and be content with who you are with one another. This judgment is talking about extreme prioritization. It's the realization that the small fire that actually cooks your food is better than the massive bonfire that just burns your house down. The I Ching says, the universe isn't looking at your bank account, it's looking at your focus. Stop apologizing for what you lack. Use your simple wicker basket with pride. By emptying the clutter of your life, you're finally making yourself big enough to hold the supreme good fortune that's coming to you. A changing line 1. One should go quickly when their affairs are complete, and this brings no blame. One should reflect on how to serve others. This line is talking about precise redistribution. Line 1 is the beginning of the inner lake trigram. You have excess because you finished your work early. The oracle suggests that the most joyful use of this extra energy is to decrease yourself, your leisure, to increase someone else. This is the strategy of the quiet hand. When you see a genuine need and you have the resources, don't overthink it. Just act. However, the decrease here must be conscious. You're giving away your most precious resource, your time. But there is a warning here. Reflect on the appropriate way to do so. High-quality help is invisible. If your sacrifice comes with a loud announcement, you haven't decreased your ego, you've inflated it. Don't make the other person feel smothered or indebted. In the I Ching, decreasing yourself to increase another is a holy act, only if it preserves the other person's dignity. If you give so much that they feel that they can never repay you, you have decreased their spirit while trying to increase their situation. True service is a light touch, not a heavy lift. In career, if your project is done, offer 30 minutes to a struggling colleague, but don't do the whole job for them. In relationships, it's doing a chore for your partner without being asked, then never mentioning it ever again. Release the excess energy before it turns into a stagnant pride. This is the line of low-impact, high-value help. It's the realization that your extra is someone else's essential. The I Ching says, if you have a surplus, invest it into your community, but do it with sincerity. Don't turn your help into a performance. The goal is to balance the scales, not to become the hero. The best decrease is the one that no one even noticed happened. A changing line 2. Your personal perseverance is advantageous and precious, but undertaking something now would drain you, and this brings misfortune. Maintain your own balance by not offering to overextend yourself and remain stable. This is how one is able to increase others. This line is talking about self-integrity. Line 2 is the central strong position of the inner trigram of lake. While line 1 was about the urgency of helping, line 2 is about the sustainability of the helper. It teaches that the most profound way to increase the world is to stay undiminished yourself. This is the strategy of the solid pillar. Real service doesn't require you to sacrifice your values. There is a temptation to believe that the more that you hurt for a cause, the more virtuous you are. The oracle here disagrees. If you decrease your core, your health, your integrity, or your financial stability to help another or for some other cause, you're creating a new problem while trying to solve an old one. This is misfortune. True increase happens when you act as a stable lighthouse, not as a candle burning at both ends. Don't think for a second that you're being stingy. In a season of reduction or subtraction, protecting your boundaries feels like a betrayal of your inner nature, especially if you're kind or empathetic. It isn't. Remaining steadfast in your own routines and limits is what allows you to be reliable in the first place. If you collapse, you become a burden to the very people you wanted to save. In career, this is the moment to say no to a new project that would compromise your current high-quality output. In relationships, it's setting a boundary with someone who drains your emotional labor. Keep your lake deep so that you can always provide water later. This is the line of self-care as a strategic asset. It's the realization that a broken tool cannot build anything. The I Ching says, the world doesn't need your sacrifice as much as it needs your stability. Stop trying to be useful at the cost of being whole. By staying strong and balanced, you create a gravity of success that increases everyone around you without you having to lose a single drop of your own essence in the process. A changing line 3. When 3 people work together, there is a decrease in one and the other leaves. When one person walks alone, they are provided a companion. Line 3 is at the top of the inner trigram of lake, the point where the internal joy meets external reality. It teaches that decrease is often a prerequisite for alignment. In any system, 3 is a figure of tension, 2 is a figure of harmony. This is the strategy of the essential duo. 3 people represents too many cooks in the kitchen. When you try to move forward with too many voices, opinions, or partners, you lose your joy and your direction. One person's energy will always be decreased or diluted by the other 2. The Oracle advises you to decrease the group to a focused pair. This isn't a rejection, it's an optimization. You need the person who matches your frequency, not the crowd that validates an ego. Likewise, when one is acting alone, they will naturally fill the void. If you fear being alone, you will fill your life with noise. But if you have the courage to walk alone in your sincerity, you create a spiritual and social vacuum. This vacuum acts as a magnet, pulling in the one companion, the partner, the mentor, or the peer, who is perfectly suited for the journey. In career, stop trying to get consensus from the whole team. Find the one stakeholder who matters and work exclusively with them. In relationships, stop asking 5 friends for advice on your love life. Decrease the noise to hear the signal. This is the line of finding your co-founder or your co-pilot. This is the realization that 1 + 1 = infinity, but 1 + 1 + 1 often equals 0. This is a metaphor, by the way. The I Ching says, the third person is the friction. By letting go of what is extra weight, you aren't becoming lonely, you're becoming focused. Whether it's a business partnership or a marriage, the highest power is found in the power of 2. Clear the field of the distractions so that the companion can find you. A changing line 4. If one decreases their personal faults, it will draw others towards them, bringing joy swiftly to their lives. There is no blame in this. This line is talking about the removal of personal barriers. Line 4 is the transition into the outer trigram of mountain. You're no longer decreasing your time or your group or your endeavor. You are decreasing the parts of your character that create friction. This is the strategy of the polished mirror. It teaches that the fastest way to increase your social or professional flow is to stop getting in your own way. The advice of this line is to identify the cause of sickness in the situation, endeavor, or within yourself. Often we blame our lack of success on bad luck or the wrong crowd. Line 4 gently points the finger back to the self. A fault, which could be a bad habit, a defensive attitude, or a lack of transparency, acts like a repellent to other people. When you do the hard work of decreasing these traits, you don't have to chase joy. It hastens to you. The vacuum created by your removed ego is immediately filled by high-quality people and opportunities. Admitting a fault is not an act of self-flagellation. It's an act of sovereignty. There is no shame in realizing you were the obstruction. The no blame here indicates that as soon as the correction is made, the past is erased. The joy is the signal that you are back in alignment. In career, it's identifying the one professional blind spot, perhaps poor communication or procrastination, that's stalling your promotion. In relationships, it's dropping the negative perspective that keeps you from trusting others. Fix the leak and the tank will fill itself. This is self-refinement from the inside out. It's the realization that you don't need a better elevator pitch. You need a cleaner vibe. The I Ching says your flaws are the only things standing between you and the companion. When you stop being your own worst enemy, the world finally becomes your best friend. The moment you decrease the drama, you increase your value. A changing line 5. 1 is truly increased. Help arrives unbidden. 20 tortoise shells are used in divination to confirm with absolute certainty that your success is written in the stars. Your sincerity and humility attract supreme good fortune. This line is talking about the gravity of true sincerity. Line 5 is the ruler of the hexagram positioned at the peak of the outer mountain trigram. After the discipline of the previous lines, where you decreased your excess, your noise, and your faults, you have created a perfect spiritual vacuum. This is the strategy of the earned miracle. It teaches that when you are truly empty of ego, the universe is compelled by its own laws to fill you. In ancient divination with the I Ching, tortoise shells were cooked over an open fire, and how they cracked would determine the actual divination itself. They were considered the ultimate authority. To have 10 pairs, which is an overwhelming number of tortoiseshell divinations, agree means that your success is no longer a matter of luck or effort. It is ordained by the divine. You have proven your sincerity, and now the ornate bronze of the universe is being handed to you. This increase is unchallengeable. When this unbidden help arrives, do not feel like you owe a debt. It is well deserved. This is the harvest of the seeds that you planted during the season of subtraction. Accept the gift without the burdens of Hexagram 40. Humility is not thinking less of yourself, it's thinking of yourself less. In career, this is the golden opportunity or the unexpected backing that comes out of nowhere. Don't overanalyze it, accept it. In relationships, this is the time of supreme reinforcement where your loyalty and simplicity are finally rewarded with deep devotion. Stop the work of decrease and start the art of appreciation. This is the law of displacement in full effect. It's the realization that you didn't lose anything in the previous lines, you simply traded lead for gold. The I Ching says, your sincerity has created a magnetic north that success cannot help but follow. Even the most cynical forces, the opposition, cannot stop the momentum that you've built. The divine isn't just helping you, it's increasing you. Breathe, say thank you, and let the abundance in. The void that you created was never meant to stay empty. A changing line 6. 1 can increase by creating new value without depriving others at their expense, and there's no blame in this. Perseverance brings good fortune. It furthers one to have a plan, goal, or destination. Others come to you willingly to help, because in doing so they help themselves and each other. One's personal goals and the greater good are one and the same thing. Line 6 is at the top of the outer trigram of mountain. At this summit, the mountain is no longer a barrier, it's a lookout point. You've mastered decrease so thoroughly that you have moved beyond the economy of sacrifice and into the economy of co-creation. This is the strategy of the rising tide. Abundance is achieved when personal gain and collective benefit become one. In the lower lines, increase often required a decrease, giving up time, ego, or resources. At line 6, that friction completely disappears. You are creating new value that didn't exist before. Your success doesn't take a piece of someone else's pie. It bakes a bigger pie for everyone else. This is the highest form of no blame. In the original translation of this line, it says, no longer has a separate home. This is a profound metaphor for the sage. It means that your personal interests are now so aligned with the greater good that you no longer have a private agenda. When you help others, you are literally helping your own ecosystem. Others come to you willingly because they recognize that following your lead is the fastest way to help themselves. You have become a community utility. In career, this is moving from competing to building a platform where others can succeed alongside you. In relationships, it's moving from a me versus you mentality to an us versus the problem mentality. Lead by sharing your process with the aimless. Your floor becomes their ceiling. This is the line of becoming an open source success. It's the realization that true power isn't hoarded, it's distributed. The I Ching says you have reached a level where your personal ambition is a blessing to the world. You don't have to choose between being successful and being good. By providing a destination, a goal, or a vision for others, you turn your private victory into a public resource. Everything serves to further because you are finally working in harmony with the gain of the universe. That concludes Hexagram 41. I hope that you liked the video if you found it helpful in understanding this hexagram. Subscribe to follow the series along, and next we'll look at one of the most auspicious hexagrams in the I Ching, Hexagram 42, Increase and Augmentation. See you then.